Welcome to the show. Our intro tile didn't fire, so welcome to the show. That is Nick Suss. I am Braden Gall. He is from the Tennessean. I am from 440 Sports, and we are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. I've got graphics to show folks as to why Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, two local businesses working together, can save your holiday season. All right? No pressure, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, the official barbecue of the Houston Oilers. You can follow him on Twitter at Nick Suss. You can get to me at Braden Gall. Happy Halloween to everybody out there, of course. Hope everybody's going to have a wonderful and safe and amazing Halloween. As someone with kids, I love this holiday. It's become like my favorite holiday, although Thanksgiving is still my favorite day. I love the whole month. It's the only month I decorate the house and everything, Nick. And I got the booze cart ready to go for all the parents tonight, courtesy, of course, of Sinkers Beverages. The problem is it does not come with a roof or a top to it where everyone can stay dry in case it rains all night. So if you're listening to this Thursday morning, thoughts and prayers to everybody out there walking kids around in the rain tonight.
Would it help if I gave you some bloodstained sheets as a tarp? Would this be of the occasion for you?
Ooh, we have props today. I think there's more props coming today as well.
Yeah, I've got all sorts of props today.
What is the bloodstained sheet for, and who died?
We had our Halloween party on Friday of last week,
nice.
Which means I will always have to remember watching Freddie Freeman's Grand Slam dressed as Austin Powers. It was just a gorgeous moment of my life. But yeah,
did the Dodgers finish the deal last night? They did finish the deal.
Right? Yeah. The
Congratulations.
Yankees, absolutely blew it.
Congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I'm not going to lie, as much as I do appreciate working with both you and Paul Kaharski, go effing Dodgers. Yankees suck. Sorry.
I told somebody this last night. The absolute pleasure of being a fair weather casual at this point of my life. I was going to be happy if they won, and I have no sadness about them losing.
Yeah,
it is.
Well, and I know I do realize that hating on the Yankees is very cliche. It's very sort of like very base, very mid, as the kids are saying, sus, as my daughters would say.
And my birth certificate, yeah.
That's true. 1S, but that's fine. What's interesting is, like, I have a more real reason to hate the Yankees as a Mets fan. As a diehard Mets fan, I have like an actual New Yorkie reason for hating the New York Yankees. So it's a little different, especially losing to them in 2000. I'm so glad we did not have a chance to play them because the Yankees would have dominated. We actually would have given Aaron Judge pitches to hit, which is, something he can't do ever in the postseason. Anyway, we got Titan stuff to talk about today on the show. Happy Halloween to everybody. Everybody be safe.
Hello.
If you need some booze, if you need booze, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. If you need some smoked meats, go to Sinkers Beverages. I'll get it right at some point during the show. I'm going to touch on the top 5 prospects. This is just for you, Stoney. If you're in the comment section and you want to get involved, please jump into the comment section and give us some questions. We do appreciate you guys. If you are watching the show on Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook, please share it right now. Nick, you can share it. I'll share it. Everybody can share it. Please retweet, share the product on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. And if you want to jump into the comments, you guys know how to do so. We will talk to you guys throughout the course of the show. Stoney Keeley, of course, is here for it. Here for the draft talk. So I'll give you my top 5 prospects, but there's a couple of I think the reason I wanted to do this, because I think there's been a lot of talk about a very particular player, and I want to touch on that, and then we can move on. And we'll discuss your sit-down interview with Ran Carthon after the Lions loss. Interesting timing for you to get that. So I want you to kind of tell folks how you went about getting that interview, what you learned. Ran had some really interesting comments about 2 particular teams, and I'm not sure. I want to get your thoughts on how
I have a lot of thoughts. Yes.
Good. Okay. I want to get your thoughts on how realistic those comparisons are to what the Titans are trying to accomplish here as well. We'll get into your piece about this maybe being one of the worst games ever played, the Patriots and Titans game on paper as it comes up on Sunday, but an opportunity for the Titans to double their win total in Brian Callahan's tenure as the head football coach. So we'll get into the matchup. And of course, you have some props and a new segment on the show. We'll do that, and then some SEC stuff coming up as well. So there you have it. Okay, so let me give you my draft. Here's the reason I wanted to talk about this, because I think people, and Kaharski said this as well on Monday, so that's kind of where this came from. People are obsessed with Travis Hunter. He is the best player in college football. He is number 1 on my Heisman ballot right now as a voter. I'm not supposed to talk about this, but I don't care. You guys know me here. I think that Travis Hunter is it's hard to put into words what he means to his football team in college. I think he's the best player in the sport. Here's the problem with Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is not the best corner in this draft, and he is not the best wide receiver in this draft. And I don't know how an NFL team is going to deploy him. So while drafting Travis Hunter as probably the best player and athlete in all of the college game right now, who plays over like 130 snaps a game, like hundreds more snaps per game than anybody else does, or sorry, for the season. I would draft Will Johnson. If I'm going to draft a corner, I'm drafting Will Johnson out of Michigan before Travis Hunter because I think he's a better corner, pure cover corner. If you are drafting a wide receiver, I think Luther Burden and maybe even Tet McMillan out of Arizona are better pure wide receivers. I think Travis Hunter is a top 5 pick, but I don't think he is an elite corner or an elite wide receiver. And I don't know what the NFL is going to do with him, but I doubt they play him full time or on both sides. I just don't think you can do that.
So I think one of the places that I agree, but in a disagreeing way, Travis Hunter is cornerback 1A-B, like not even 1B. Like I think the gap between he and Will Johnson is so much smaller than the gap between he and Luther Burden or he and McMillan. Of like, this is a situation where Derek Stingley was the 4th pick and Sauce Gardner was the 5th pick or whatever that was, 4th and 6th, 3rd and 5th. And
I think they're both better cover corners than Travis Hunter.
I don't know. I think coming out of college, I would have ranked them Stingley and then the other 3 all together in the same tier. I just thought Stingley was
I would have done the same. Yeah.
A leash above them or a rank above them, whatever the phrase is. But I just sincerely think that Travis Hunter is in that same tier. I think that he is a superstar cornerback, and it's the reaction time. It's the twitchiness. Maybe it's not the like polish that Will Johnson has. I think that we kind of conflate Michigan identity with polish and pro readiness, and he has that. But when it just comes to raw skill, again, we're talking Stingley versus Sauce Gardner here. If Stingley was the more polished player and Sauce Gardner was the more toolsy player, and look, I'd probably argue both of them are top 10 corners in the NFL right now, so you don't complain about either. But if you have if corner is your number 1 priority, which I'm not convinced it will be for the Titans, but it could be up there. Yeah, I don't think a top 5 pick on Travis Hunter to play corner is a bad thing. The question is, will Travis Hunter want to play cornerback at the NFL level?
That's a good question. I don't know if a team drafts you, they put you where they think you're going to be, I guess, but I guess that has to go into the pre-draft preparation process. Look, it is just my opinion. I'm sure there's plenty of folks that think Will Johnson is not as good as Travis Hunter. I do not think Travis Hunter is an elite number 1 overall pick type of good at the corner position. I think he is a number 1 overall pick athlete. He is one of the best football players I have ever seen. But that's like, and I think somebody's already mentioned this. He is not a true man-to-man roll-up and lockdown cover corner in the NFL. He does not have the sort of pure raw skills to do that, as well as some other guys. It doesn't mean he's not really good at it. So again, and Stoney says the Will Johnson injury muddles the water. Here's where Eddie says this is kind of where I'm at. Hunter is a generational zone corner, but he's kind of worse in man than Johnson. That's ultimately my point. I don't think he is a true elite lockdown man-to-man cover corner. The way other players sort of, to your point, I think Sauce is sort of a good example of like a generational top 5 pick. I just don't think that player at that position, because I think he's a corner in the NFL, not a receiver. To your point, I agree with you. He's better at corner than he is at receiver in the NFL. I don't think that is the place the Titans need to go if they're picking in the top 5. That's sort of why I also think about this. Is I would absolutely draft Luther Burden with the 3rd pick or whatever, wherever they are.
So give us your rankings. You said you have a top 5.
I think Luther Burden's number 1. I think Luther Burden is the guy I would draft number 1 overall. If I am a Titans front office, if they're asking me, which they are not, I think you can debate. I do not know who's better between Abdul Carter and James Pierce, but I think those 2 players are more important for this team than Banks or Will Campbell, the 2 offensive linemen from Texas and LSU. I think Mason Graham's a great player, defensive tackle for Michigan, but I don't think he's necessarily the piece that they need unless they decide to move Jeffrey Simmons in the next 5 days, which is possible. Then they're in the market for Mason Graham, who I think is a great player. But again, I would have Travis Hunter the corner and Will Johnson the corner behind the 2 edge rushers because of the Titans' positions of need, because I think they're all about the same. Now, what about quarterback? Shedeur Sanders not in the top 5 in my book. Quinn Ewers not in the top 5 in my book. Carson Beck probably not in the top 5 in my book. Garrett Nussmeier, who I've been on the bandwagon, I think earlier than everybody else. Stoney, I'm pretty sure I was saying he's going to be a first-round pick before anyone else in this market. Garrett Nussmeier,
other than me,
you and me both. I think Nussmeier. I think all of these quarterbacks are like JJ McCarthy. They're all good enough to be fringe top 10 picks, but they really belong in the mid-teens like that. But I think they're all good, and I think there's an interesting collection of players. I don't know where Cam Ward goes. I think he's in that book as well. I think they're all kind of about the same, and they're all, J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix territory, which I think weren't they like 10 and 11 last year, I think, when they were drafted?
Yeah, it was like 8 and 10,
8 and 11.
around there, yeah.
So to me, it's Luther Burden 1, Abdul Carter 2, James Pierce 3, Will Johnson 4, Travis Hunter 5. That would be my list because I'm removing pieces and moving them down boards based on Titans' needs right now, in my opinion.
We don't have to fixate on this, but if there is a situation where the Titans are moving back a few picks and getting an extra first-round pick,
that's what
I would prefer the edge rusher out of Georgia to the edge rusher out of Tennessee.
Well, there's two. Which Georgia player are you talking about, Carter or Williams?
Pick one. I would prefer both of them.
That is ultimately what I would love to see them do. And I know we're way too early for draft talk here, but if you are picking 3rd and you cannot get Luther Burden and there is no quarterback worth taking, I think picking 7th and deciding between Carter, Williams, Walker, the 2 Georgia players, Abdul Carter and James Pierce. You have 4 edge rushers that are all going to be very highly graded, all probably top 15 picks. You pick one of you have your choice of those guys, maybe number 2 on that list, much like offensive lineman was a very deep, awesome class last year. And at number 7, you had a choice of probably the number 1 or 2 player at that position. I think if you can get to 6 or 7 or 8 in that range, you probably have your number 1 or number 2 pick at the edge rusher position in a year where there are 3 or 4 or 5 very worthy candidates. That seems like the most logical thing, and I'm just putting it on tape on October 31st. That this is what we're talking about. So,
and that's enough.
I love Travis
for a month.
We got everybody fired up about it. People already moved on to May. It's ridiculous. It doesn't help that we're about to talk about the worst game on paper the Titans have ever prepared to play. Can't imagine why people are fired up about the draft. All right, so there you go. I'd love to hear from what you guys have to say about that. I think there are more quarterbacks. I've said this all along. I think this quarterback class is better than people think, but it doesn't have a number 1 overall pick guy. I think they're all like I said, I think they're all like 7 to 15 is kind of where I'm at. So we'll see. I just think it's fun to start dabbling, whetting the appetite with an H. You know what I mean? So there we go. Stoney says Travis Hunter 1, Abdul Carter 2, Mason Graham 3, Will Johnson 4, Malachi Starks, good call there, the Georgia safety at number 5. I don't necessarily disagree with those rankings there, Stoney. I would have Carter. I would have it. Bird and Carter would be my top 2. So, okay. All right. Let me hear about the Ran Carthon sit down. You had a chance to sit down with the Titans general manager following the Lions loss in Detroit. So, number 1, take us through behind the scenes here. When did you make the request? When did you find out you were going to get a chance to talk with him? And where does this happen? Like in the tunnel at Ford Field? Like tell us all about sort of how this all unfolded.
This story is going to be way shorter than you think it is.
I asked him, do you have a second?
That is exactly what happened. He was sitting in the locker room. I walked over and said, "Hey, Ran, got a second to talk?" And after some thought, he said yes. So it was not a sit down. It was he was sitting and I was standing awkwardly with a recorder angled down towards him. And we talked for 4 minutes, and I very much appreciated it.
Power move by you, by the way, being on the higher plane, like physically being taller than him in that moment. It's a very bold move by you. All right, so let me ask you this. Why did he say yes in that moment? After coming off one of the worst losses in franchise history, worst loss of his career as a general manager, you're on the road. I guess you're away from more cameras. I don't know. Like why say yes in that moment?
Not to put words in his mouth, but it seemed like the time that the general manager of the Tennessee Titans should be talking about stuff. Not only was it after a 38-point loss, I think the 4th largest loss since the Titans moved to Tennessee, but it was also 4 days after trading DeAndre Hopkins and Ernest Jones. Like, we've all zoomed past this, but that was the prevailing narrative of the week leading up to the game is, are the Titans selling off? Are they punting on the season? Are they tanking? All of this stuff. And we don't have to get into the tank. I'm sure Paul's show covered the tank quite heavily, but we had to talk about it. Like I wanted to give him an opportunity. It is not my job to editorialize on what he is and isn't doing. I didn't write the story as a hit piece or a glorification piece. We just hadn't heard from him since July. And this was the time for the general manager of the Tennessee Titans to explain what's going on. And I appreciate that he did that. Whether you're satisfied with his answers, whether you think some of them were non-answers, whether you think he went too far with some of his answers, that's not for me to decide. I wanted to report on what he was saying. And that, for about 4 minutes and 10 seconds, is what he was saying.
Yeah. Look, I think he's, first of all, here's Ed. Isn't it therapeutic to talk about what pains you? I tend to agree. I think he needs to be out there more. We've said that from the beginning. I agree that it was the right time after making trades to sit down with the paper of record in the city and kind of do what he did with you. Do I wish you would have gotten more out of that? Sure. But the fact that you sort of just did it impromptu and that he was willing to do it impromptu, I think is beneficial. I think it also, here's some of the calculus. You tell me if you think this is right or wrong. He's standing there and it's so impromptu and it's so sort of away from, I guess, the standard operating procedure around communications and press conferences. Like if he announces he's doing a press conference, there's going to be 15 people there just talking to him, right? Here in Nashville. So he knows it's a little bit more of a controlled environment. He knows he can get a message out there through you. And look, I think there's some savvy PR from him doing it at that time, because it lets some steam out of the pot a little bit from a pressure standpoint to talk, but it's also not a highly adversarial situation, right?
Yeah, I will never presume that people are asking to be talked to, but he was sitting in the locker room. Like, there were media in the locker room. He was sitting near the doorway, and presumably it was because the doorway is where the players had to leave, and he wanted to greet the players as they were leaving. So this is not me presuming, oh, he was sitting there, he was trying to get one of us to come up to. Like, I don't think that was the case.
And that's not my opinion. I just think he gets the request from you, and he's like, he does some quick PR calculus, you know?
Yeah. And again, it was not an immediate, oh, hell yeah. Like, the first word he said was no. And then he thought a little bit longer. I mean, it was a split second of calculus. But again, we can talk about the specifics of the interview, but the circumstances of the interview were everybody else in the locker room was talking to, I believe, Arden Key at the time. And I was like, I enjoy Arden Key. He is a good quote. But I sincerely don't think the needle is going to be moved by Arden Key's analysis of a 52-14 loss.
All right, I have one major point that I want to get to, but I want your takeaways from the conversation first, and then I'd like to know how you've been on the beat, basically overlapping with Ran's tenure, and I'm curious how you think he has changed in that time. So, what were your takeaways, and do you think he's changed at all in how he approaches the job, or does the job, or perceives the job, etc.?
Yeah, I will say, just given the fact that it's a print medium and you guys didn't get to witness the interview, I think one thing that didn't come across in print is the frustratedness with the punting on the season question. Like, he wasn't defended. We weren't going to throw hands or anything, but there was a measure of pride of the question or the accusation that, oh, so you traded these players because you don't care about the rest of the season, right? Like, that was not him declaratively saying, no, we're not punting. Like that wasn't the tone. The tone was a matter of puffing out your chest. And since I know that there was a lot of hubbub on print and radio and TV about the couple of bounces of the ball quote, please go back and read the question, because the question was about the broad season aspect. It was not specifically about one game that they lost 52-14, because if you were to describe what went wrong against Chicago, against New York, and against Indianapolis, that would have been a perfectly reasonable quote. Was it a reasonable quote about Detroit? No, that's not why they lost to Detroit. It's different.
It's so funny. That's like, I when I read it, that never occurred to me. When I read the story, it never occurred to me that he was like, misrepresenting the loss to the Lions or trying to take the sting out of the performance. Like that was not at all how it read at all. So I love radio. I love sports talk radio. Way to go, Zach.
But has he changed, to your question? Yeah, I think there is I don't know if this is the right way to say it. There's a little less polish than it. Like at the beginning, it was very presented. It was very tight suit presentation.
Yep.
I think
that
he is becoming
comfortable
more of becoming more of a presence than a figure, if that symbolically makes any sense.
Yeah.
And again, I've been in NFL locker rooms for 3 years now. You guys know my background. I'm not sitting here like I have 50 years of NFL experience, but I can't say I have seen too many times where the GM is just hanging out in the locker room. Like that is an advantage to Ran. He is a guy who can be in the locker room after the game, and it seems like it fits.
Zach says, hey, at least I interpreted it correctly, unlike 90% of the rest. Yes, that is true. The fact that he's not normally in there, the fact that he said yes, the fact that it was after the trade deadline and after a really bad loss, I don't think any of that's. I know you say he's not down there just asking to be interviewed, but he's making himself available. Dropping the line in the water there, seeing what bites he gets. And I think it was. He got kind of roasted for doing it. I thought it was smart. I think you got to talk after trading players and a team's bad loss like that. Now, is he a little defensive about the punting thing? That's fair. I don't have a problem with that. The answer should be, hey, we're still trying to win games. Like that's absolutely what he said. I think the most interesting thing, and I want you to tell me what you think about this. The most interesting thing to me was comparing himself and the Titans situation currently to the San Francisco 49ers situation at the beginning of Kyle Shanahan's first year and Dan Campbell's situation, which he was wrong about the Dan Campbell
a little bit. Yeah.
And I'll get to that. But the Niners did start under Kyle Shanahan 0-9. Then they go 6-1 to end the season. So they finished 6-10 in his first year. The rest, as we know, is history. 0-9, pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Dan Campbell actually started 0-10-1 as a head football coach in the NFL. 0-10-1. They finished 3-13-1 the first year. Then they proceeded to go 1-6 the following year. So can you imagine, Titans fans, if Brian Callahan's record 7 weeks into next season is 4-19-1? Dan Campbell started 4-19-1. It is basically a miracle that he is still employed.
My dream, for what it's worth, as a sports writer, is to cover a tie. So I would love that purely on the symbolic basis if I love ties. But yeah, so I wrote about this. If you guys want to read about this at the Tennessean, it went up on Tuesday, I think. I threw the Bengals in there because Brian Callahan has brought up that comparison of Zach Taylor. I think it was 0-11, 0-12. The Bengals started that year in 2019. And I did a proper compare and contrast of the Titans situation to those three situations. And there are like 3 or 4 factors that just blatantly show you these are not the same situations.
Is one of them Joe Burrow?
No, because that's the problem. Quarterback is one of them. But so if you think about the 3 quarterbacks that helmed those situations, they were Jared Goff, which is a team trading for an established quarterback. It was Jimmy Garoppolo, who was the one who turned things around late in the season. Remember, the 49ers were starting like C.J. Beathard to start that year and traded for Garoppolo mid-season. So that was trading for an established quarterback. And it was Andy Dalton was the quarterback for the Bengals in 2019 because they hadn't drafted Burrow yet. So in all 3 of those situations, you have franchises that are invested in bridge quarterbacks, veteran quarterbacks, whatever you want to call them, as we are not trying to find out what a young quarterback can do right now. We have quarterbacks who we know who they are. And the Bengals learned, hey, Andy Dalton's not the future. The 49ers and Lions learned Goff and Garoppolo were, in fact, the future and took them to conference championship games and Super Bowls, etc. So that's a major difference, is that the Titans are trying to figure out who they are. A second major difference here, if you look at the draft classes 1 and 2 before those bottoming outs, the Lions on roster already had Penei Sewell, already had Amon-Ra St. Brown, already had Frank Ragnow, already had Aleem McNeil. They had cornerstone pieces in place. The 49ers already had DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead and George Kittle, and Jimmy Ward was on that team. Akella Witherspoon was on this team. And it's hindsight. We know those guys turned out well, and we don't know the hindsight of is J.C. Latham a dude? Is Tavondre Sweat a dude? Is Roger McCreary a dude? Some of these under 25 players. Go ahead.
I was going to say, let me ask. You're saying the draft class is before Kyle Shanahan and Dan Campbell took over, correct?
So it was the draft class preceding them and the their first draft class. So the first two.
So you're referring to Skoronski-Levis draft class, yes, and then the one that he had a hand in, which yes, of course is this past year. Okay, so that ties. That might be the difference is Skoronski-Levis Spears. Okay, all right.
So you have those pieces of, oh yeah, no, they turned around because they drafted really, really good players. And then you have another comparison point where, gosh, this one's just a little more complicated. I don't know how to frame it. Let me pull up my article if you don't mind.
I think reading your own words on a podcast is pretty meta. So I like it though. Go for it. Sinkers Beverages, everybody.
Headline, Titans won a dazzling turnaround like the Lions had. It's hard to see that happening. Look at that clickbait. Good for me.
You don't write the headlines, do you? Do you write the headlines? You
I wrote that headline.
Oh, you did?
The stockpile.
You're thirst trapping out here in the streets.
Yeah. So the draft after that breakdown, the Lions traded 5 times in that draft alone to turn 8 picks into 8 picks. Like, they were not trading to stockpile. They were trading to maximize. The 49ers drafted 9 players in 2018, making 5 trades in that draft. Like, these are situations where
starting to sound familiar.
Yeah, so this is a situation where those teams didn't specifically, let's have 13 picks, let's have 14 picks, let's acquire as much as possible. These teams went ahead and said, we are going to use our picks as leverage to get the players we need right now. And if you look at that first Lions draft afterwards, that was the Aiden Hutchinson draft. They absolutely crushed it. And they used those extra picks to acquire more picks in the future because of the Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford trade that helped them out. And then that next year is when they drafted Brian Branch and Campbell and Laporta and just absolutely beat the NFL with a great draft. The 49ers draft situation, much more complicated because the 49ers have missed as much as they've hit on some of these first round picks they've stockpiled. But that year after the starting 0-9 was the year they had the number 2 pick, traded back with Chicago to move back 1 spot in the Mitch Trubisky trade, and then stockpiled from there just based off of a 1 pick down trade. So this Titan situation, we don't know the complete answer yet of if they're going to do this, but go back to my conversation with Ran. What's the first thing he says about why they have to trade? You need draft capital. You need draft capital. So it is an incomplete comparison because I don't know if the Titans are going to be able to pull off these trades. And it's an off comparison because none of these teams had a young quarterback they were breaking in.
Yeah, and I find it interesting. I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if one of the options for the Titans in the offseason, if they do decide that Will Levis is not the answer, is a veteran bridge quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised at that. Or I don't know what they're going to do at that position. I just think 4-19-1 is an astonishing record to start your career to only become one of the best franchises in the NFC. I just think that's an astonishing turnaround. The Bengals turnaround is just as astonishing. And then, again, Kyle Shanahan is largely considered the number 2 coach in the world. Maybe Sean McVay's number 1. I don't know. Like who's considered number 1, number 2, number 3. I don't really care.
I think Andy Reid's probably in the conversation.
Andy Reid, yeah, absolutely, duh. But like I mean, Shanahan is up there, and Campbell's now up there too. So it does take time. I think that's a good message for Titans fans. That look, patience is important here. As we get ready to discuss why on paper this is maybe the worst football game ever played in franchise history, coming into the New England Patriots and Titans matchup on Sunday at Nissan Stadium. So good stuff. Make sure you read the Q&A. Make sure you go read the other story there with the clickbait headline on the Tennessean. Pay for good journalism, Tennessean.com at Nick Suss. Go get to them there. All right. Good stuff by you, my friend. The bold Nick Suss, as Stoney calls you. I do want to mention and explain why Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willies will save your holidays. Here you go. Watch this. If you guys are watching, by the way, I need you also to grade my Halloween costume, Nick.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I'll grade it.
I'm
talking 0 to 100 or A to F?
Whatever. Whatever you want. Pick a scale. I'd like it to be a DEF CON scale, actually. Go down.
Okay.
Now I'm also currently I'm wearing my daughter's elementary school sweatshirt. Shout out to Rosebank Elementary. I will show you a picture of my costume that my wife picked out and planned, and dressed me. so like any good fully formed male middle-aged adult man. However, Thanksgiving is coming up immediately following Halloween, and why stress about it, guys? How about this? Make it a Shotgun Willie's barbecue Thanksgiving. Bring a little of that Lone Star State tier Thanksgiving table this holiday season. I've said it before. Nick Suss. My parents are now vegetarians and vegans. They will not cook meat for me. And I've been living off mom's turkey and stuffing on Thanksgiving my entire life. Now it's on me. You know what? I'm going to go get some brisket. I'm going to get some smoked turkey breast. I got sides. I got jalapeno cornbread. And I got pumpkin pie, all courtesy of Shotgun Willie's. Go to the website right now. GWbarbecue.com. Go to the website. It's linked in the show notes on YouTube and on the podcast app. You can click that button, order your Thanksgiving meal. You can pick it up on Wednesday at 2:00. All the instructions to make sure you can deploy the weapons on Thursday properly will be included in all of this. And guess what you can do, courtesy of Sinkers Beverages, Nick?
What can you do?
You can go into the store, and they have already paired all the wines. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the wine options. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue and Sinkers Beverages are working together to build your Thanksgiving meal. I do not know how to pronounce that top one there, Nick, the Oregon Pinot Noir. I do not know how to pronounce that first word. Do you know how to pronounce it? It's French, I think.
I took like 13 years of French, so let me try.
Oh, you better be able to get this.
Flaneur.
Flaneur. There you go. There's also a sparkling rosé, an Oregon white, and is that a Syrah? Is that right? A Big Basin Vineyard Syrah. All these courtesy of Sinkers Beverages, chosen by them as professionals to pair with your Thanksgiving meal, courtesy of Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. You go pick up, you order online, you go pick up the entire meal, you swing by Sinkers on the way home, and your entire planning for Thanksgiving is handled. It's fantastic. I don't know why anyone ever cooks on Thanksgiving. Let Shotgun Willie's do all the work for you. It's fantastic. Okay, so go check them out. Two great local companies. Shotgun Willie's now, as named by the national scene, best barbecue joint in the city. And, of course, Sinkers Beverages named best liquor store in the city for the 4th year in a row and best craft beer retailer in the city as well. So check them both out. All right. I need you to grade the Halloween costume. The reason I'm doing this is because we have to talk TV.
Okay.
I'm assuming you will know exactly what my costume is.
Sure.
We shall see. Are you prepared? Don't laugh.
As close as I'll ever be. All right. Blonde dragon people over here.
How do we feel about this?
I feel like the stare is doing a lot of work right now.
It is.
Yeah. I feel like you have done a good job of inhabiting the blank, empty visage that you are trying to inhabit. I don't recall there being a big Tennessee Vols logo in the background in this show. That is a little bit anachronistic to me.
Fair enough.
But beyond that, I will give it a DEFCON 2.
DEFCON 2, which is technically the second best DEFCON, or is it the second worst DEFCON?
It's the second best. DEFCON 1 is the DEFCONist.
Oh, I thought DEFCON. Yeah, DEFCON 5 is not a bad DEFCON, right?
No, DEFCON. If you are DEFCON 5, it's like, yeah, things are okay.
Yeah, it's like, all right.
It's a little bit DEFCON.
DEFCON 2 is like the missiles are in the air. We need an Iron Dome system.
Yeah.
Sort of. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You guys, great. I think that's me from Halloween the other day.
Okay.
And just
Austin Powers? Is it Austin Powers?
Yeah. And just to show that I'm not a poser, I'm also wearing my Wayne's World hat right now.
Nice. Well done.
The only thing I'm ever thinking about is Mike Myers. I have my poster of Goldmember right to my left, and I have another Wayne's World poster in front of my face. It's the only thing in this world that I care about.
Having a poster of your Goldmember is very narcissistic, Nick. I don't appreciate that. Here's the deal. There's also not. I don't think so. Do you know which show that's from? Do you know what show that's from?
I believe that's House of the Dragon, but
it is House of Dragons. It is also I am married and in love with my niece, so that's cool.
And I'm the one who you had the inappropriate joke.
It's weird. It was her choice. Although, look, we are both like, my wife is fair skinned and very blonde and blue eyed. We didn't have to do much to lean into our very Aryan roots.
I would, for what it's worth, love it if there was just one character on that show with a mustache.
I know. I refused to shave it because my wife likes it so much. She was like, "Don't shave the mustache." I was like, "I'm not going to." So it'll take me like at least 3 to 5 days to grow it back. I don't want to do that. No, I think she went all out for it. We got to dress up tonight for all the kids. I think it's a pretty good job by her. So there you go. You do what the wife wants. That's just all I know how to do. All right. Okay. New England, bad at football. Titans, bad at football.
Yes.
What's gonna happen on Sunday?
So I spent a good amount of time researching this, and this is another thing you guys can read at the Tennessean. This is only the 5th time in franchise history since moving to Tennessee that the Titans have played a game on November 1st or later where the cumulative winning percentage of the two teams is 200 or worse.
Yikes.
There are not very many games that are this nationally irrelevant, even for a franchise that has played a lot of games that have not been super duper relevant. If you guys want me to rattle off the other 4 games so you can take a macabre trip down bad memory lane.
Sure.
there were 2 games in 2005, one against the 49ers, one against the Texans. I believe those were like November 25th and December 15th or something like that. The Texans game was actually somewhat relevant because it determined who was going to get the number 1 pick in the draft that year.
Oh, yeah.
And then there are 2 games in 2014, one against the Jets, which was Chris Johnson's return to Nashville. So people forgot that it was 2-11 teams. It was just the Chris Johnson game. And then the worst one that you'll all remember is the 2-12 versus 2-12 Thursday night game, Week 16, Titans Jags in 2014. Just
as is tradition.
The probably worst primetime game in NFL history. That loss signified the Titans' ability to get Marcus Mariota. So good, ultimately.
Yeah,
probably.
So. People want to hate on Marcus, and he did a lot of good for the franchise. So
yeah, that is your competition for this week. Those are the other 5 games. I would argue, if we're talking what is the least relevant Titans game ever, it's that 49ers game from 2005. Yeah. Alex Smith did not play. Frank Gore did not play. It was a game where the 49ers didn't even bother putting out their young talent. The Titans didn't have any young talent yet other than Pac-Man Jones. It was just a deeply irrelevant game.
Adam Jones, talk about a macabre player. Look, these are dark stats, my guy. These are dark numbers.
So if you want it, the worst Titans game ever by cumulative winning percentage would be that Titans-Jaguars game. I am pulling up the number right here.
The worst, there's no way that there was a worse record than 4-24.
Yeah, so that's a
like 20 games under 500 is.
Yeah, so that's a 143 winning percentage. For comparison, this week is 200. That's a 143 in prime time. Do you guys want a completely random TV thought that's related? Sure. So that Titans-Jaguars game is the only Titans game I have ever fallen asleep during. And I do not regret telling you that, because the reason that I woke up in a nervous sweat was not because, oh man, I missed part of this game. I woke up because that was the night of the series finale of the Colbert Report. And so it was the choice between, do you want to watch Titans Jags or do you want to see how Stephen Colbert ends his tenure on Comedy Central?
Please tell me you watched Stephen Colbert.
I did. I turned off the game and watched Stephen Colbert. Good, and then the very next night was the series finale of the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. Deeply underrated late night television. If you want to have a joyous day, go back and watch some clips of Craig Ferguson. He was great at it. But don't go back and watch clips of the 2014 Titans-Jaguars game. No. You will not enjoy it.
Go back and watch clips of Craig Kilborn doing SportsCenter? ?
Sure, yeah, that's an option. Dennis Miller did Monday Night Football.
Yeah, oh god, that was weird. Lots of big words on a football broadcast for football fans on a Monday night.
That's the Cowboys and the Packers, babe.
QC, by the way, going back, if you're watching and you saw my photo, people have been asking about that picture, like what the hell's going on with your hand? It is sitting on the hilt of my sword. So it is rested. They always stand like that. So they stand like, you know how you are when you're a knight, knights. Knight, when you got a sword and you're standing around talking about knight shit, you just put your hand up there. It's all good.
That was a borderline. While we're talking Weekend Update anchors, that was just like a Norm Macdonald delivery right there. And when you're a knight,
I'll take that as a major compliment. Got the mustache going and everything. So, all right. So worst game. So here's the thing. You didn't pick the Titans to win it. You picked the Patriots to win it, 20-14.
I did, yeah.
I think the Titans should win the game, because especially if Drake May's not going to play. But look, they just traded one of their best pass rushers. Their other best pass rusher is a little bit banged up. They don't have a good rushing defense. Tony Pollard should have a big day. It's there's a good chance that it's Mason Rudolph versus Jacoby Brissett, which is also very dark. I think they can win the football game. Run the football, play some good defense. There's probably not going to be any turnovers for the defense, so just don't make any mistakes. Don't make any special teams mistakes. All things that have been very hard for the Titans to do this year. So,
what have the Patriots done lately that the Titans have not done lately?
They won a game.
There you go. Until the Titans prove to me they can win a game, I have a hard time picking them to win a game.
The numbers, however, were not great. Like, the Jets vastly outplayed them. So
yeah, the Jets should have won that game. The Jets should be like 5-3 right now. But we're sitting here talking about the New York Jets and on Halloween.
Can you imagine? So if they end up with Brissett's the backup, right? He's going to start. If he starts, that's like 4 out of 7 backups, 4 out of 8.
Yeah, something
backups?
Like that.
That's crazy. It's crazy talk. All right. So are you taking? You're taking the Patriots. I will take the Titans. Everybody. There we go. I'm trying.
I think the under.
Beacon of light.
I think the over/under is 38. If I'm being realistic here, I'm just taking the under. I don't care who wins.
I saw that number. I wrote it down. I was like, that's also pretty dark.
That's a low number. It's time to break out a prop on a segue.
It is a horror. Not yet. It is a horror. Like 2 sentences. It's a horror film on Sunday afternoon at Nissan Stadium. So enjoy your holiday weekend, all 4 days of it. That begins with trick-or-treating and ends with Titans Patriots on Sunday. So there you go. All right. So you have a new segment you would like to present to the good folks before we talk a little SEC ball to wrap up here.
As a segue from this segment, the fact that I talk about this sort of stuff tends to attract people who like talking about this sort of stuff. I get some strange emails. I get some strange feedback from readers who hear me talk about things like, hey, have you ever counted how many letters are in the first name of every coach? And they think, oh, this guy wants to hear the crazy stuff I've thought about. And you're right. I do want to hear the crazy stuff. I'm taking you to Geek Corner right now.
Geek Corner.
If you ever have something that's absolutely insane that you want to do way too much research on, email me. Just like last week, I got a email from reader Anthony Hatterberg, who I believe sometimes listens to this show as well. And I'm just going to tell you guys, he sent me a 1,000-word email complete with color-coded charts, which I'm not going to share my screen, but I will read you the gist of this email for your consideration.
Is this a dramatic interpretation?
Yeah, dramatic. As you know, Bud Adams created the Oilers in 1959, and beginning in 1960, began with 3 consecutive years going to the AFL Championship game, winning 2 of them. In 1963, the Oilers won 6 games and missed out on the playoffs. Beginning in 1964, the Oilers had 3 consecutive years of 4 wins or less. This would begin the 10-year pattern of 3-year misery for this organization. Every decade, with years ending in 4, 5, or 6, the team has a lower winning percentage and non-existent playoff hope than that of all other years. Let's call these 3-year stretches as poo periods for simplicity. Winning percentage for the history of the team is .487. The winning percentage of non-poo periods is .538. Poo periods are .343.
Did he say? Hang on, sorry to interrupt. Did he say shit in the email?
No, he said poo. This is me reading poo.
Okay.
The Titans have never been to the playoffs during a poo period, with only 1 season of 10-plus wins. That would be 1975, a possible outlier. Besides the 2000s with Fisher, the poo period is typically a time for coaching changes. Head coaches being fired is related, yes, but how? And why exactly every 10 years? If these weren't all exactly 10 years apart and consecutive, I wouldn't have cared or put much weight into it. Did something happen before the 1964 season that enacted a 10-year curse?
Civil rights.
If this is true, are we destined for 2 more poor seasons after 24-25, but possibly another mini route toward a playoff berth starting in 2027? From my limited research into the NFL, there are periods of decline and prosperity with all teams in the NFL, but never this patterned. I apologize if this is a total waste of time or not appropriate for your talents. Feel free to ignore this, but I thought this might interest you.
Oh, this is very appropriate for your talents.
Have a great week.
Okay.
So let me read you the records in every year that ends in 4, 5, or 6.
You're going to read all of them? Okay, all right.
2 and 14, 5 and 11, 2 and 14, 3 and 13, 7 and 7, 4 and 10, 3 and 13, 4 and 12, 7 and 9, 5 and 11, 10 and 4, 4 and 10, and then that's it, because then the sevens are 9 and 7, 8 and 8, 8 and 8, 5 and 11, 5 and 9, 3 and 11.
All right, so I counted a 7 and 7 in there, a 7 and 9 in there, and a 10 and 4. Did I get the best 3 records right?
Yes, you did. Those are color-coded yellow and green. The rest are color-coded red.
As is tradition. So Bud Adams starts the franchise, and
59.
Here's the question: What was he, like a Blue Dog Democrat, or was he like? Is this all payment for not supporting the civil rights movement? I don't know. That's the only thing I can think. Like, that's what comes to mind in 1964. Is
are you going to make me do
our president getting shot and then
here?
Well,
they passed a law in '64. No,
this is what happens on Halloween when your team on Sunday is playing another team that's garbage. It's a garbage versus trash.
So yes, Anthony, thank you for the feedback. This has been Geek Corner. If you guys ever think of something incredibly geeky, let me know. I will be happy to read the dorkiest shit you have ever thought, because he's right. I had noticed this before. I had never collected the data, but yeah, years ending in 4, 5, and 6, brutal for this franchise. If you are planning on like buying tickets to a game in 2036, just reconsider.
Did you? There was a lot in that email. Did he actually put the total franchise winning percentage?
Yes.
For 4, 5, and 6 versus the other years?
Yeah. So it was 538 in the other years.
Okay, that's what you were saying. Okay.
And 343 in the poop periods. So about a 200-point drop.
I apologize. I did not refer to those years as their appropriate nomenclature. The poo period.
The poo period, yeah.
Let me ask you this. Of the couple of years you've been on the beat, give me your top 3 Geek Corner moments. Like, what are the Jonathan, the name, the 3-syllable first name? Like, give me the ones that you dug into, didn't know where it was going to take you, because every good journalist lets the information and the story take you where it wants to go. What are your like 2 or 3 favorite like researched moments that you? I mean, this has got the poo period's got to be near the top of the list.
Be up there. I spent about an hour and a half the week that the Titans fired John Robinson, trying to go through every GM transfer of power in the last 25 years to find if any team had ever relieved a GM of his duties with a winning record in the middle of a season. That took a long time of research, and the answer is no. That's the only time that's ever happened.
Wow. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
It's the only time in NFL history that a franchise has fired a general manager with a winning record at the time of the firing.
Certainly in the last 25 years. I cannot guarantee if it didn't happen in 1944 or something like that.
Gotcha.
But based on Pro Football Reference data, that one was a lot of fun.
Most of the players in 1944 were like going back to their full-time jobs on like Mondays and Tuesdays, so I doubt there was a full-time general manager to be fired in the first place.
Heading into the draft this year, I did research on every single player the Titans have ever drafted with an initialized first name in case they picked J.C. Latham. That was very fun.
Is it technically a J period at C period?
I don't believe it is, but I'm still considering that initialized.
Shoehorned. Okay.
Right. Do you have to have the periods to?
Well, does it stand? What does it stand for? Jesus Christ Latham or something else? Probably something else.
Probably Jason Case and Latham or something like that.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
I don't know.
What does it actually stand for?
I do not know the answer.
Okay.
But yeah, the previous initialized name was AJ Brown. I'm sure you guys can figure that out.
Yeah, good call here. Those were actual initials, by the way. Real geeks know that. QC Hawk says, how many times has a team fired a head coach after winning a playoff game? Titans probably on that short list too. That, of course, Mike Mularkey, the Mariota catch, throws it and catches it himself on the deflection. They beat the Chiefs. Derrick Henry has a great game. And then they've decided to hire Mike Vrabel. I'm assuming that's a good Geek Corner comment there, QC Hawk. Good stuff there.
Yeah, well, I will look into that. I know there have been plenty of times where coaches have retired after winning playoff games. Fired is a different situation.
I bet you there are more coaches fired after like a first round loss, because it's like the culmination of like 3 or 4 years of not achieving what they're supposed to do in the postseason. It's probably not a lot, but I'm willing to bet you there's a few of them. And they probably all work for Jerry Jones.
So, sorry, laughing at Ed Henry's comment. That is a good joke right there.
Is there truth to the rumor that Jason walked across the lake? All right, there we go. No, but at the rookie meal, he turned all that. Never mind. Okay. Is it wine or fish? What should we do with JC? Okay. SEC. Ole Miss at Arkansas, Kentucky at Tennessee, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, Texas A&M at South Carolina. So a lot of Garrett Nussmeier talk from the folks earlier, Zach and Stoney and everybody. I'm a big believer in him, but I don't think that you can take those 2 or 3 really, really terrible decisions in College Station last weekend and put too much on him in terms of long-term evaluation. I think he's a mid-first-round pick, a solid quarterback, but I think he's going to be a first-round pick. Just an extraordinary moment for Texas A&M last weekend in that win to kind of go to a Nashville native, by the way. Marcel Reed played at NBA to come in and have that really special second half for Texas A&M. Big, big, big moment for the Aggies. They have to go to South Carolina, Nick, and they are only a 2.5-point favorite, which means Vegas is telling you they think there's some letdown happening here. A&M's been very good. What do you make of the matchup here? South Carolina very good on defensive in the defensive front. Texas A&M also very good in the defensive front. Maybe play the under here. I don't know why Vegas, unless there's some letdown because Texas A&M isn't fully formed culturally, maybe behind the scenes yet because it's so early in Elko's tenure. I don't know exactly what to make of Vegas giving South Carolina such a good shake here.
Yeah, I have learned in my decades watching the SEC to never count out or count in South Carolina. Just don't count South Carolina. It's a fool's errand. You're never going to predict what's going to happen. My thought is that South Carolina has arguably the best pass rush in the country, and it's pretty easy to neutralize a pass rush if you don't intend on throwing the ball very much. So we will see
so true.
if Texas A&M completely neutralizes that with its quarterback run attack and having to keep those guys home. I like the Aggies. I think that I think I told you guys last week I'm higher on the Aggies than I had been previously. I thought they would win that LSU game. I will just to clean up that LSU game. I will send you guys or show you guys the texts that I sent right there. Will Levis. Those were some decisions that I'd seen before. But I like the Aggies in this one.
Oh man, brutal decisions by Nussmeier in the third quarter. Just 2 of them were terrible. One of them wasn't really his fault, but 2 of them were atrocious. Diego Pavia and the New Mexico State Brain Trust that went down to the Plains last year and beat Auburn very easily, I might add, is now all 3 of them going with Clarkley and Vanderbilt down to the Plains to beat Auburn. Now, here's the deal. I think Auburn is, I don't know about you, but if I had to rank SEC towns, I think Auburn might be my favorite. I just think it's
14th.
I'm offended.
Definitive bottom.
I am offended.
Do not like that town.
I love it. I'm
Sorry
offended.
to the people of Auburn. Have nothing against you as people. Don't like that town.
I'm offended by your opinion on this. I love it. I think it's great. It's very idyllic. It's completely. It's all wrapped in Auburn. There's nothing there that's not Auburn. It's just a pretty
Poor
town.
man's Hattiesburg.
Oh my God, don't insult Auburn that way. The food there is special. It's very, very good. I love that place. I love that place. Stop talking. I love that place. However, I was trying to clear my throat so that I could then insult Auburn. So you're not letting me do it. I love you, Auburn, as a city. I think your coach is kind of a dirtbag and a lying scumbag. However, allegedly, Vanderbilt, Tim Beck, and Jerry Kill and Diego Pavia, all New Mexico State, all now at Vanderbilt. If you are not, even if you're a Tennessee fan or an Alabama fan or whatever, if you are not rooting for Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia to go down to Auburn and beat Hugh Freeze on the road with a second different team, to just have that be a story is fantastic. It's fantastic. And you have to be rooting for Vanderbilt in this situation to get to, and they would get to bowl eligibility, by the way.
Yeah, 2 things. One, let's also not forget that New Mexico State beat Liberty as well. So this would be a 3rd time for Diego. When Hugh Freeze was at Liberty.
Hugh Freeze was at Liberty. Diego beat him 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
I know New Mexico State beat them. I can't remember if Diego was the quarterback.
Oh, that would be amazing. No one's ever beaten a coach 3 times with 3 different schools. That's never happened, has it?
I can't imagine.
Geek Corner, brought to you by Shotgun Willie's Barbecue.
But also, to the fine people of Auburn, that is just a long-running bit I have with friends. I truly do not have that strong of feelings about your place. I do not. Shit. It is not my favorite place in the world, but I have had at least one good memory. Yes, I have had at least one good memory in the town of Auburn.
49-14 in 2022. They beat Liberty on the road. Let's see who the quarterback was. Diego Pavia was on the team. Did he play in that game? Let's find out, because this is turning into a better episode of Geek Corner than even the poo period. He was 16 of 21, 76% completion percentage, 214 yards, over 10 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, beating Liberty in 2022. He has a chance to beat Hugh Freeze with a third different team. Well, let's go, Doors.
Second team. He did it with New Mexico State twice.
Well, no, I'm counting Liberty as an additional team here.
A third matchup.
I'm fudging all the rules.
A third matchup that he has defeated Hugh Freeze.
So good. Chef Rand says he was there with Malik Willis. I thought Willis was, well, maybe not. I thought Willis was drafted. He was the Titans.
Malik was with the Titans in 2022.
Yeah.
That would have been Kadon Salter.
Former Tennessee Volunteer. I think he was a Tennessee Volunteer at one point. Ole Miss and Arkansas is fascinating. Can Ole Miss get back into the race? I know they got Georgia at home coming up, and if they beat Georgia at home, they could in theory control their own destiny and get to 10-2 and maybe still work their way back in. Arkansas, Sam Pittman has saved his job. They have 5 wins. They need one more to get to bowl eligibility. Taylon Green's been very good for them. This game, as you have talked about on this show, Ole Miss and Arkansas is weird, very strange, and I expect more strange this weekend.
Yeah. I can tell you there is nothing scarier to an Ole Miss fan.
Just looking for some strange.
Nothing scarier to an Ole Miss fan than looking at the schedule and thinking, man, we got to beat Arkansas in order to stay in the SEC race. That is the scariest thing. You can tell them they're going to play number 1 Alabama, and they're like, yeah, we've done this. That's fine. We can do that.
With you, Freeze.
Hey, don't blow a 4th and 26. And no, can't do that. I still think Ole Miss is the better team. I still think they can beat this Arkansas team. It's a strength-on-strength situation of Ole Miss's stingy defense against Arkansas's high-flying offense. I think that Ole Miss is equipped to make this a slightly more normal game. But if this turns into a turnover fest, if this turns into you got to make a play with an offense situation, Ole Miss's offense has to show that it wasn't a fluke against those 4 non-conference teams. They have not played very well in conference play.
Top 3 defense yards per play, though. Top 5 defense in stop rate. Like, they are one of the better defenses. Now, they gave up some big plays against Kentucky on that last drive that led to the loss, but they've been very, very good on defense.
Not to give the most lukewarm take ever, but Walter Nolan, really good. Yeah. I have been surprised. I've been impressed by how good he is.
Kentucky line of scrimmage has not been good, and Mark Stoops' tenure at Kentucky, well, he will not get fired, but I've said since the beginning of the summer that he is going to retire at the end of the year. If you don't know the story, his father passed away with a heart attack on the sidelines. His brother, Bob Stoops at Oklahoma, retired early. He does not have a great relationship with his athletic director. They are not getting along, and they are getting pounded into submission by Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Florida. They did beat Ole Miss completely bizarrely on the road against Ole Miss, but every other game they have been destroyed at the line of scrimmage in very un-Stoops-like fashion. And going up to Tennessee to play at Neyland, where they have look, Jeremy Pruitt, bad Tennessee coaches have beaten Mark Stoops at Kentucky. I don't know why a good Tennessee coach would not be able to handle a bad Kentucky team that is continuing to get dominated along the line of scrimmage. That's my entire Tennessee-Kentucky take there. Florida-Georgia is a football game that's happening. It's a great rivalry. I can't believe they're moving it away from Jacksonville during renovations and not taking it to college campuses. I think that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but this is a great game if you get a chance to go to it. I'm sure you've had a chance to cover it and go to it. Billy Napier is somehow still alive at Florida. Georgia just needs to handle its business here. I don't think there's any chance that Florida is competitive in the game. So
yeah, instead of talking about this game, I'll just say, if you guys want to read a fun story, go look up what happened the last time that they moved it out of Jacksonville for stadium renovations. Look what Steve Spurrier did to the University of Georgia the one time he got to play in Athens. It is probably the most Spurrier thing he has ever done.
Was that like 96, 97?
Yeah, like 96, 97, one of those years.
He used to call
Go ahead.
Well, he called Ray Goff was the head football coach at Georgia, and he used to call him Ray Goof, which is typical like dad joke Spurrier stuff, you know?
Yeah, I don't want to spread hyperbole, but as best I know the story, Steve had it convinced in his mind that he wanted to break the Sanford Stadium scoring record. And that was the only thing he cared about doing that day.
Spurrier is a fascinating dude. Now he's out there like campaigning for like gun legislation, gun common sense gun laws. Like, who is this person? Spurrier is hilarious, man. He's great. He's one of a kind. That is for sure. Total unicorn. Speaking of, by the way, it is October 31st. It is Halloween. Happy Halloween. Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, 2 great local community businesses. If you care about your local community, today is the last day of early voting. So if you want to avoid all of the chaos of the election on Tuesday, please go vote today. The only thing that you can really actually vote on in Middle Tennessee and Davidson County is the transit referendum if you are in Davidson County. Otherwise, all the other elections are already predetermined in the state of Tennessee. I hate to break it to you. But there's a transit referendum, and if you care about how you can get to Nissan Stadium or how you can get to downtown or how you can move around in the city, if you hate traffic and you like moving around easier in town, go vote for transit. That's my opinion. I have no problem putting out my endorsement of the transit referendum. So go vote for, but just go vote. Today's your last day of early voting, so go vote. Otherwise, you're stuck standing in line on Tuesday next weekend. Nobody wants that crap. So, all right. Anything else you got coming up on the website there, Nick?
No, I think you guys can check out the 3 or 4 stories we have talked about today. We'll have updates on general football stuff and whatnot. But yeah, I think the big stuff is already up for the week. If you guys want to check that out, do you want to end this with a weird ranking of my favorite Halloween TV episodes?
TV episodes of Halloween? Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah. You want to go 8 to 1 or 1 to 8?
I'm
not doing a tweet 8. I sent out 5 years ago.
I'm not doing 8.
Okay,
I'll give you top 3. Yeah,
I'll give you 3. Spooky Endings, Happy Endings, Season 2, Episode 5. Fantastic. Spooky Sunday Funday, You're the Worst, Season 2, Episode 8. Absolutely phenomenal. And just as a classic here, Treehouse of Horror number 5 from The Simpsons. That's the one with the shinning in it. Absolutely.
The only words I recognized were The Simpsons.
Yeah. Treehouse of Horror.
Didn't recognize anything else you said there.
Yeah. You guys, those are some good TV episodes. I'm probably not going to watch them tonight. We've got movies to watch. But
what movies are we watching tonight?
I think tonight's Cabin in the Woods.
Do you give out candy though? And do you guys have trick or treaters?
Okay, yeah, we got candy.
Don't be those folks that turn the lights out and don't give out candy and ruin kids' holidays.
No, all right, I like happiness.
As do I, and so does Shotgun Willie's and Sinkers Beverages. Look at the meats. Black Hawk Farm smoked brisket, smoked turkey as well. You got mashed potatoes, Tony's Magic green beans. You got turnip greens. You got glazed carrots. You got pumpkin pie. You got jalapeno cornbread. All of it can be made for you by Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Just order it before Wednesday of Thanksgiving, and you can go pick it up. He'll have it all made for you. You just turn it on and heat it up the next morning. You're good to go. Swing by Sinkers Beverages and pick up those wine pairings. Let them do the work for you. Let them take care of your entire Thanksgiving meal stress so you can focus on your drunk idiot uncle and trying to get along with your in-laws. Let them handle all the other stuff. So there you go. Enjoy the game on Sunday. Here's what I'm going to say, Nick. Go to Tennessean, by the way, Tennessean.com, pay for good journalism. Titans run for over 200 yards, and they win 31-17. I'm going to be Captain Positivity going into this thing.
Go for it. I could see them running for a lot of yards. That does make sense.
206 yards rushing, 31 points, and a dub for the Tennessee Titans. There you go, folks. I've just ruined your entire weekend. Have a great Halloween. Go vote, everybody. We will talk to you next week. Myself, Kaharski, will be back on a football show on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.